when you're dealing with designing these puzzles, like what do you actually what goes through that process? Because like as I said, I'm not a big puzzle guy myself. I don't even know where I would begin to start with making a puzzle that actually seems engaging. And I guess what other systems exist that you might want to mention? I'm sure there's some things you want to leave up to exploration when people find them, but if there's anything else you want to mention that wasn't in the demo that might be interesting to talk about.
Okay, well, all right, well, focusing on the puzzle design process. So a lot of it comes down to just playtesting and experimentation. Like most puzzles, when I design one, it usually starts with me scribbling ideas on paper until I figure something like, oh, this could work. That could be I'm a very visual person, so it helps me to draw it on paper and figure out how it might work. And, okay, this could be an interesting idea. Let's try that. I'll then go into Unity. I'll prototype up a very rough prototype in code. Make sure it actually functions and not just I'm imagining it. Because sometimes I'll, oh yeah, it's a cool idea for a puzzle. I'll put that in code. I'll do it in code and actually have it function. Actually, logically, this doesn't work.
Right.
When I was looking at it on paper, I thought it would, but logically, the mathematics of it, it ends up not working or whatever. So yeah, get it all functioning, get it all working, great, and then basically it's then just make it. Once I've got the core system working, make a bunch of different variations of it. Talking about, say, the holographic puzzles.
Yeah, I've got a picture of that one open on the screen right now.
Yeah, so there's in the demo, there's like 3 versions of that one, right? And throughout the game, there is obviously way more than that. And then there's different types of puzzles. That's just one type. I'm aiming to have 4. There are two and a bit built at this stage. So yeah, and every time you encounter an instance of that puzzle, there will be it'll be a different version of it. There was a different twist to it, a different mechanic to figure out or whatever. So yeah, so once I've got the core base design of it coded up and prototyped, I then make a bunch of different versions of it. And I basically just pick the ones I think are the best ones. And that one's fun, that one's fun, that one's not very good, that one's too confusing, whatever. And then what I have been doing is sticking those in just a little grey box test environment, take it along to the local dev meetup here in Melbourne, and we have that every month with other developers come along. And I just bring along a laptop and I say, hey, you want to play a game? And have people play test them all and then gather feedback like that. I can generally from that discover A, whether it's actually fun or not, but B, discover where all the usability problems are with it,
right.
Whether the concept is being communicated well enough, whether I'm obfuscating the challenge too much or not enough, that sort of thing. It was at AvCon. I had, in addition to the main demo, I also had 2 test environments from the main game I brought along to do some playtesting on. One of those had the other type of puzzle that's currently in the game. I don't know if you played that one, but
I think I just played the short demo.
Okay. Yeah, so the other one, the puzzle type that's in that was this kind of it was sort of like a subtraction style puzzle where you basically look at 2 glyphs and combine them to make the glyph in the middle. And the idea is that if
is that one where there's one of the there's a picture on your website. I don't know if this is the same one. There's a 3-prong thing on the top, 3-prong thing on the bottom, and then there's like a thing in the middle.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm bad at explaining things. I'll send a link. This one.
I believe there's a picture of this type of puzzle on the.
That should be a link directly to the image, I think.
That's a link to my website. I don't know. Oh, my browser's not open, so this is going to take a little bit of time to open up.
Oh, it's all good, it's all good.
A bajillion tabs.
If that one doesn't.
Actually, bajillion windows.
Now that I think about it, wait. That should. Yep, there we go. Now it's in Discord. Cool.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. So looking at that, that's an early version of that one, actually.
Okay.
So, it's an early. This is good though. This is a good indication of why the prototyping and the feedback was necessary, right? So, the idea behind that, and that's a bit more complicated because there's 3 different ones to choose from there. The easier versions, there's just 2 dark glyphs on the outside and the 1 orange glyph in the middle. And you take the 2 outside ones and you combine them to make the middle one.
Okay.
So in the case of what we're seeing here, where there are lines in the left glyph and there are no lines in the right glyph, they combine to create a line in the center.
Okay.
So it just adds, right? But if there's a line, say there's a vertical line at the top in the left glyph and a vertical line in the top of the right glyph, they cancel each other out. So when you combine them, that line goes away. But if there's a line on each side, they stay there.
Right,
They
right,
add,
right.
They add nothing or they cancel, or it subtracts. So in the case of that picture you just linked there, you can see that the inside spokes, the 6 lines radiating out from the center, would add together because there's nothing to subtract them. Whereas the outside ring is present in the left-hand glyph and also in the top and the bottom. There's half in the top and half in the bottom. So those lines would cancel out. So that particular glyph that's currently selected in the middle is the incorrect one. That won't work. And so you'd have to choose the glyph that matches what the combination of all 3 would make.
Right. Okay.
Now, if that was complicated to understand as I explained it, because it's hard to explain, imagine trying to make it intuitive without using any words or text to the player.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you plan to introduce different types of puzzles? Because what you had at Avcon, that one, I don't know if that was like one of the earlier ones you had, because that felt really intuitive, even without any sort of explanation. Like, I was confused initially, but after spinning things around, like, oh, you have to make the single line up with a single line, double line with a double line, and you have to like make a line to connect them. Okay, that makes sense.
So that one was easier. That one is just naturally more intuitive, I think, because it's basically a jigsaw puzzle, and everyone knows how to do a jigsaw puzzle. This one is, well, even so, later versions of that jigsaw puzzle style, like the second one you do in the demo, actually, where it has the lines connecting on the outside, and it requires a bit of tricky repositioning using the different rings, because it's not just a jigsaw puzzle. It's a jigsaw puzzle where you can only move a selection of pieces at any one time. Basically, so you have to move pieces in and out.
Yes, for anyone just listening, you have at least on what I did, you have like an outside ring you can rotate around, and you can bring pieces into the middle which stop them rotating, and then you can rotate the ring around that and bring them back out to put them in a new position, and then you want to like line them up with the outside power things. I'm not really sure what they are supposed to be, but line them up with the outside lines to make a connection all the way through.
Yeah. So so that's a slightly more advanced version, which requires you having played the earlier version first, so you understand the basic mechanics and the basic goal, before layering on that little twist. And so that, as I said, that one is basically a jigsaw puzzle, so it's kind of naturally fairly intuitive for most people. Whereas this other version, in the image you linked, was a lot more complicated because it's not really a intuitive concept to understand. And the first time I took it to a dev meetup to have people try, no one had any idea. Well, like one person got it pretty intuitively, and he was clearly a programmer, and he understood it as an XOR kind of concept, which is a programming concept. And he was fine with it. But a lot of people playing it were like, I don't understand what I'm doing, and they would like. And I tried to make them easy, where you'd have like 2 to combine and 3 different things in the middle to choose from. And people would just try all 3 until one of them worked. And like, I don't know why that one worked. And they do the next one, don't know why that worked. And then they do that. And then they get to the more complex version, which is like, the next puzzle, which is takes that concept and then tries to build on it, make it more complex. And they've got no idea how to approach it because they don't understand the basic underlying principle of how the puzzle works. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and there was a lot of changes to make. So there was a lot of changes made to the visual feedback on the puzzle about how I presented the information, how I demonstrated that lines were adding or being cancelled out when they overlap, which was not clear in early versions. So now, originally, I think in the first prototype version, you'd cycle through different types. You click OK, and it would light up that it was correct, and you go to the next one. Um, I think in that version I might have actually had the pieces come into the middle to show they're actually combining to make the middle, but they would just like slide in and it would light up and you move on, and people didn't quite get it.
Right.
Later versions, I end up having like they would slide over, and if their lines overlapped, they would like particles would explode and they'd disappear to show them cancelling out, and various other tweaks to the visual design of it as well, which I can't remember now, but I made a lot. And I also redesigned the progression of them as well. So I went back and made much simpler ones that were where honestly solving them was not difficult, because it was like, imagine there's like on the left one there's a triangle, on the right one there's another triangle, and in the middle you've got 3 to choose from. 2 of them are clearly not right, and the third one is basically like a butterfly, the 2 triangles. So you know that's the correct one. So it's kind of like it's a gimme, but then in picking that, you can see the 2 bits come in, they combine, they make that. And you might do that, 2 or 3 times, very, very simple. And then I'll throw in the cancellation, where it might look like the same thing, but now there's like an additional whatever. So if you try and do additional line around the outside, say, so if you try and do the same combination again, it won't work this time. So you have to pick one which cancels out the lines or whatever. So it forces you into doing the cancellation mechanic, which is the part that really stumped people. Simply adding 2 together, that was fine. A plus B makes AB. But as soon as you had to like overlap lines, no one would understand that. So easing you into that in a very simple way, where that was the only concept to understand, and the rest of the puzzle was basically like super simple, was important. So yeah, and then just try to wrap it up from there, I suppose. Yeah.
So you want to explain how the puzzle mechanics work without having to do any sort of text dumping to the player. You want it to be intuitive, or at least intuitive enough where after a couple of attempts, like you sort of get an idea of what it's trying to make you do.